It's 12:30. It's 30 minutes behind the time that we usually start here on No Man's Land, but the morning has already been so stressful. If you cannot tell by the wrinkles growing on my face, welcome to No Man's Land here, where we try and go live, really live, truly live. It is Groundhog's Day. It's 2021. Every Monday through Thursday at noon Central Standard Time. But this morning, if you've been joining me on social media, you know that it's been a little problem to try and get things to work. They don't want to do nothing right. They don't want to do their effing job. They don't want to do nothing. It's been consistent. It's been all morning. It's not just been with electronic devices. It's been with everybody. So I will not give up. I am persistent. I have got lip gloss enough to get me through this year. And that's all a girl needs. So far, so good. So if you are joining me here on YouTube, or if you're joining me from the ether somewhere, or if you're a time traveler joining me in the future and you are watching this show, welcome. I had a lot of emails from yesterday's show and from continued people joining us. And thank you so much. If you want to learn more about me, or you want to learn more about how to hang in there with the astrology, solar flares, speak it, girl. Solar flares are a real thing. And just think, it is a luxury for us to continue to shut things down, restart, sip my coffee, pull it back up. Like I grew up in the era of the hang up the phone. Like I can be patient. I can wait days for a download. Okay. I've got the patience. I've got the power. So this is very, very, very important. And as Matt and other people in the chat say, that's dangerous, that persistence of yours in this dwindling democracy of ours. And it's very, very true. And another reason that my eyes are so puffy this morning is call me a pussy or a sassy or just a cliche traditional American. But after watching last night's Biden congressional address, I cried this morning. I cried mostly because I was reading a really beautiful article written by a man who had escaped Spain and the fascism there from his father, and they packing up their things and moving to Cuba, where of course we all know, hopefully know, the history of how that went, and escaping certain powers and authorities and livelihoods that smother what it is to be human and to live, and then to come here with hopes and being like, I remember when I used to take my kids to a ball game. I remember when we used to go to the theater, the kids theater, and we could watch The Sound of Music, or we could learn about Anne Frank. Man, you guys, I cannot even, if someone were to ask me what some of my tattoos mean, I could not even tell you about the connection to Dachau, because the fact checkers on all of these algorithms start saying that I'm talking hate speech just for reiterating the past pains of ancestors before me that I now celebrate and utilize as a boogie board to my power. And that is crazy to me. Anyway, reading this person's narrative, and this father saying, gosh, I'm glad my children are adults now. And I'm also sad to see that America has not only swallowed this pill, but has digested it, and that here we are. And it was one of those we're watching. I don't know if you watched it. I don't know if you joined my little Facebook blip there as I was getting my computer and StreamYard back in order. But this was a speech that we kind of knew the word count. We had an idea of okay, an average person speaking, or at least in a professional manner, it should be about 40 minutes, 45 minutes. It took our president an hour and 6 minutes, but not necessarily because his incoherence dragged on or because his language was strange. No. Instead, it was the standing up, sitting down, standing up, sitting down, standing up, clapping. Nancy Pelosi and Kamala Harris, the two women, which we stopped many times to be like, look at the history, look at how amazing these two women. Now, mind you guys, that is a process. That is a process. This is not something that Joe Biden is responsible for. This is a process that, thank you Thank you, America, has gotten us to this point where it's not as racist or as sexist or as unequal as people might think it to be, though we are tipping that way and we're about to completely lose it. But it's not what the carrot has been sold. It's really sad to me, and to not have appreciated every person before you that helped you get here, and instead to want to erase that and avoid that and excommunicate that and be very selfish and be very greedy and be very contradictive and to lie so openly, so blatantly lie. I remember once we had a president where if he ever said, I'm the bestest of, man, we heard about it. And here's the deal. We have someone now who's standing up there saying we're the bestest, but we absolutely are not. And when he says that we are in a crisis, there are real crises to be worried about, but none of which really addressed in this to Congress. So there were no plans to address the border. There were so many stats blurted out about jobs and employee increase of this, but not any really addressing of capital gains, of taxes, of concerns of how you plan on making these $1 trillion recovery plans work when the last one you issued literally has people taping up things on their drive-through that say, hey, listen, you made it just rich enough to poor enough rich people that they don't need to come in, and the mismanagement and miseducation of the people is so bad, and things are so, it just, people aren't coming in. Things aren't running like they used to. These businesses just aren't there. The support just isn't there. It doesn't matter how much money you throw at it. And this, if the support and the love and the kindness is not there, we know the money is nothing. We know there's no gold in the bank. We know. We've known that for a while. So it's just a struggle. So I really struggled to listen to it, and I really struggled this morning as I let it marinate overnight, knowing I would be addressing people this morning to talk about it. I didn't want to be emotional, so I cried about it this morning, knowing that like the crisis at the border, children, the mass amounts of sex trafficking and human trafficking, the hunger strikes, the people everywhere across the world struggling with pandemics, and America making international news for being a hoarder of vaccines and a mismanagement of health and pandemic awareness. And yet you have someone who's standing there regurgitating lies, and the girls behind him that we are supposed to be so proud of and coming from one vagina out there telling, and I don't speak on behalf of all women, I speak on behalf of myself, but these are not role models. These are absolutely not role models. These are absolutely not role models to me, or I believe to any women out there, because, and I'll tell you from someone having worked in law enforcement, Kamala Harris is criminal. And for women, you know how many people have offered to put their dick in my mouth to try and give me some promotion? Guess a number. Look at me. Go ahead. You can judge me. You did the moment you saw me. And that's human, and that's okay. And you notice that I got up and I took a shower and I put deodorant on, and I may or may not have shown just enough cleavage, or I may or may not have winked just a little bit when I spoke to you, or I may or may not have even reached out and said, you know what, I hope you're having a good day, and someone took that as a flirt. How many times do you think I have had a supervisor hit on me? How many times do you think in the military or working in a predominantly male environment or patriarch situation, or even in the media, because my mother was a professional singer and put me on stage as a pageant worker, like by the time I was 5, I was in cheerleading, worked for the NFL, the NAFL. How many times do you think when I walked on stage as someone who did boxing and worked backstage as a fitness instructor and worked at a gym up front, but also just to make extra money because doing honest living, you can't make much. So I was a ring girl that hold the cardboard and I showed my cleavage. How many times do you think I got chased to my car afterwards? Huh? How many times? Okay. Do I say that it's this or that or whatever? No. We learn from these experiences. You learn to project pattern human behavior, and you try and understand that hurt people hurt people. And I have seen more abuse, elderly abuse, misuse, and someone like Kamala, she has not acted in integrity. She has not. Absolutely not. And this is someone not necessarily judging, but just saying when you walk that walk, talk that talk, you claim it. I'll tell you what I've done. I've done Maxim. I've not done Playboy. Okay. I was 17 and 18 and told it's scholarship, military, or job. That's what you do when you graduate high school, and worked for every single thing I have. And you know what? There's not a whole lot I've done that I'm not proud of. I act in accordance with thinking my dad might be right over my shoulder, because most of the time he was. My dad, yes, raised by a single parent father, later married an Italian woman. She was actually Korean, but she was adopted from a very rich Italian family that had immigrated here. They're called the Giannini family, and they lived in West Virginia out in the Boot Hills of Appalachia. It was a really interesting experience. But anyway, and it's just one of these spaces where you think about all the trials and tribulations that you've been through, all the experiences that you've had, all the church sermons, all the confessions, all the baptisms, all the forgivenesses, all the apologies, all the promotions, all the offers, all the letdowns, all the no thank yous, all the punches in the face, all of it. Jason joining me. He's a podcast host now, an amazing person out of Minneapolis. I just love that dude. Dimples for days. And like he said, we were slinging cell phones together. We were slinging cell phones. I worked as a manager at Sprint, as a salesperson at Sprint. I have worked in that space. I've worked selling tape, I have done a lot of strange jobs. I've made pizza. I have sold cell phones. I was new business development, crump instructor, choreographer, you name it. And I enjoy working with people. And social services and working in law enforcement has never quite been able to pay the bills or provide me with the life that I like, which means traveling, visiting family and other places, and being able to go and do things that I love. Working an honest living, you have to do it 6 times over. It's quite difficult. And I didn't have a silver spoon in my mouth, despite my dad working really hard and making decent money. He gave it all up in child support. When my dad was divorced, my mom took advantage of a very sexist system. Yes, I know that there are rigid spots in it. I remember being abused by my stepdad and calling the police and having the policeman show up and nothing happened. I know what that's like. I do. Believe it or not, I do. And so when people ask me about my experiences and I share these, it's like, trust me, the empathy is there for a reason. And so I like diversity. I have found it to be a useful skill, and I teach it to my children. And I don't think that up until very recently, the last 5 years, really 6 years, did I live in a space, or did I feel like I lived in a country, regardless of which state, here, there, and everywhere, as I continued to finish my graduate studies, that I ever felt racism that couldn't be cured, or oppression that couldn't be released, or a hurt person that couldn't be saved in some way, shape, or form with kindness. But recently in the pandemic, the inability to reach out to our loved ones, the lack of love, the headlines, the misuse of technology, it's been quite a struggle to feel that the love we have remaining in us is enough to cure what we see spreading. And it's not a pandemic of COVID that was created in a lab in Wuhan, right? This is, we're one of the only last countries that want to debate that, just in case you guys are up and interested for that. We make news all the time in India and Australia and in most parts of the UK, even, whether it's making fun of us because of Meghan Markle and her silver American Hollywood spoon and her attitude that we should just cater to this and break all traditions, and that she should have not known better, even though she was very famous and should know better and has access to the internet like any and everyone else. But these people that, want to be in the president's club and be elite, and they just want to, have a theater for the rest of us. And in America, we've really lost it. And Hollywood has been really mismanaged, and our politicians have really taken advantage. And gosh, guys, if we don't begin to get back involved in our community, show up at the weekly things, do face-to-face, put your arm on that person that needs a hand, see someone having a mental breakdown and step in. If that doesn't happen, it's really not going to get better. I have a lot of messages from people after having started this podcast just a week ago that have reached out and said, how do I make a difference? I'm so excited to hear a podcast that wants to just talk about the positive options. Like, what can I do after these news things are happening? After last night, having a president say we are in numerous states of crisis, but not give any reprieve, say that they're going to provide this and that and the other. But we know, because we've seen this outstretched hand, that it doesn't do anything but feed us poison. And so we know it's not going to be helpful. You have New York City promising to reopen 100% by July 1st, but you have the police down more than 79% and the businesses completely crashed, and the economics and pandemic, it just like any other democratic city across the country, they're not good. They're not good. They're not good. Another round of stimulus checks sent out, some people, not others, vaccines to some people and not others, and given out in a way that's absolutely systematically racist, suddenly now, in ways that were never there before. This $1 trillion recovery plan, it prioritizes certain communities and certain universities over others. Is that okay with you? I think that is not equal. I think that's exactly what it is that people are really, trying to say is not okay. Anyway, I know that we talked about all sorts of things yesterday, even Davos. We had some important people that were concerned with the continuation of the banning of books. Dr. Seuss, yes, that's been banned. Paw Patrol, if you remember your children watching that and really liking the Paw Patrol and even trying to incorporating the love for police officers, right? My kids were a little too old for Paw Patrol. They liked like Thomas the Train and things like that. But yep, Paw Patrol is also gone. If you thought that one of the most popular ways for people to watch police and for police to be held accountable, and police should be live on Twitch. And oh my gosh, did you know that a lot of people in the media thought that was a good idea too? And they put police live PD across America, where there was joining us live PD going now to a situation in Houston. And that this show was extremely popular. It was extremely popular, but they took it off the air. Why? If it was getting good ratings, why'd they do that? Because they don't want you to like police. They don't want you to see things where criminals are spitting and kicking and yanking and shoving, and that people are getting shot at. They don't want to show you that. They want to show you what they want to show you. They definitely don't want to show you live footage. No. And in fact, these situations and like the laws being passed around the country about cam footage. We deserve the cam footage right now. Well, you have all the cell phone footage of everybody who sold that footage to their newest news outlet and put it online to go viral, and they can edit that and aren't held accountable because it's personal and wasn't subject to the laws of evidence. So then you want to release the cam footage as soon as possible so it can be the equal and opposite to what people are going to see, because it's at that point going to be an absolutely impartial jury because information. I know. So that's why we got to release it soon. But you can't release it if it breaks the law, because anything that police officer, we don't want them to be above the law, do we? They've got to follow the law. Well, what does that mean? Well, that means technically whenever you share something online and it's graphic, shows the death of someone, shows someone that's a minor under the age, shows someone who's a vulnerable adult, somebody who could be a mandated reporter, shows somebody who could be an undercover police officer, shows somebody's license plate where it gives personal information, or their license, which is usually happening in like a police response. You can't share any of that because it endangers other people. We should edit that. Did you know that most police departments don't have anybody working in that department, and the requirement of body cam footage has already put them so under their budget that's being dismantled anyway that they do not have staff, literally do not have staff to do that? So it just sits there? Yep. That sounds like a problem. Yep. It is a problem. What would fix it? Well, being able to provide police officers and being able to provide the public with decency, manners. But you know what's going to happen is either it's going to edit all internet and all footage everywhere because of facial recognition, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, Newmark, go check it out, weep, weep, burp, burp, burp. Or they're just going to do like response that, you know, we can take out cell service in an area, right? You know that when a lot of things go down and people go, why isn't there more cell phone coverage from that? Because there wasn't any. And you can't dispute it or sell it because someone says, well, I need something to put on the visual news. Well, we should just make it up. There's a lot of that going on right now. There's just some really interesting things happening right now that people should pay attention to. I just want to check in the chat room really quickly. My dad had several one-nighters and then left with his new woman when my mom finally saw the light of day. So I was raised by a single mom who worked 3 jobs. And see, I love that predominantly when we see like single parents, usually it is the mother. Right? Whereas in my situation, pretty unique being the dad, whether it's the legal system and that it is sexist to give custody to the mother, or the fact that mothers breastfeed, or the fact that mothers typically are more empathetic and nurturing. Yes, I'll be sexist enough to biologically say so, as far as estrogen and progesterone and all the different hormones we have in our body and the connections spiritually and like umbilical cord otherwise to our children. It's quite difficult to just leave your child behind, which is why filicide, which also happens more in women than in men, killing of one's own child is usually, we say, a mental health concern or an imbalance. And there's reasons for these seeds of truth, right? There are reasons for it. But in today's day and age, we are kind of in a weird space where we may or may not value any of that evidence or rational thought. I'm not we're trying to be more equal, but I don't necessarily see that happening in courtrooms. That's going to be, again, something that's just kind of constant struggle with individuals. And usually you don't know the issue until you're in it. I value and devalue people not too concerned with color or biology. I would say that biology matters in a sense of predictability, right? When we say that we want to trust someone, I know that people get very scared to talk about race or talk about the color of your skin or the size of your breasts or the shape of your facial hair or how you look. But as far as phrenology goes, as far as survival, biological recognition of something that looks similar to you, and therefore the comfort that you feel in the presence of something that reflects your own image, these things are absolutely natural behaviors, sociological grouping. This is natural. It's not necessarily meant to be discriminatory. It's kind of pretty common in social organisms. And I know as I talk about that, my internet starts going. So I hope that it doesn't completely kick me off here, but I know that we are coming up to 1 o'clock. So I guess I could just say that it was a short day, but I'm going to try and go on later this evening, or maybe just do a recorded show, follow the rules, give you something edited. That we do have in North Carolina, and I had kind of shared this last night, we've got more than 5 dead, including 2 officers, after a shooting that happened yesterday. If you're anywhere near North Carolina, you might be seeing this completely overtaking your news feed. And it was a standoff actually with police officers, with a person. And so a second deputy died. Suspects, mother and stepfather, deceased. So not quite sure if I have enough evidence on this to talk about it. I had sent and reached out to a firefighter that I work with and individuals that I know, and my uncle, who's an ex-naval officer there that live in North Carolina, to see what the news was as close to the source as possible. Because sometimes I think that's the most important thing, is not so much that it be the Washington Post or CNN, but that you actually are reaching out to like the news in that area, which Boone, Boone, North Carolina. So incredibly tragic situation. I'm not quite sure the details. As I learn more, I will share that with you anytime police officers or individuals, collateral damage, right? It is an absolute tragedy, and people die every day. And here we are. We've also had Rudy Giuliani being raided, voicemails, laptops, evidence. We have people in India, according to New York Times and news media. We have a lot of, but also, guys, Indian news. And one of the women who birthed my first baby, she now is a midwife in, gosh, I think the last I saw her, she was in and out of India, going to Jerusalem. Man, she was just traveling all around areas, helping women get better access to natural birthing and healthy birthing facilities and options. And so I know that she travels in and out of India. And one of my dearest friends that I worked with when I sold cell phones in Sprint, when I went to Colombia, she actually lives and has family in India. And she was the first person that taught me some of my amazing hand language and dancing and taught me how to cook some amazing Indian cuisine. And I really am always thinking of her family when I see news headlines out of that area, but people just dropping dead, dying, mostly heat related things with respiratory illness, right? You have COVID, you have blocked hospitals, you have huge population, you have bad conditions, hygiene, extra conditions on top of it. It's not a good situation. But here in America, we've got great hygiene. We've got the ability to wash our hands. We are in a situation where a pandemic can have a really low fatality rate, and we can use a series of medications once we get it. We have access. Hopefully, you're not going to be, screwed in the back end with your medical bills, and you have some access. If you're a working American, maybe you still have that. That's where the struggle is. It's the money. Here in America, it's not getting treatment. It's not even living through this. It's about having a healthy environment, healthy diet, and support that allows you to not be dependent upon a system that really is not rooting for you. It really isn't. It's not. So we have to work and root for each other. We have to support one another, and we have to hold each other accountable, first and foremost, ourselves, then our children, then our community, and it outstretches from there. So I know here where I live, we have a new Parents United program. We have people meeting every month to talk about things happening in the curriculum, the SEED programs, the diversity and equity programs being taught, the teachers leaving, the police officers leaving, the amount of social services and just people within the community leaving their jobs, and small businesses not making it through these continued mandates. It's extremely important that you guys, if you see it happening in and around you, take action now, not tomorrow, not later tonight, now. Okay, this is part of my goal of doing this podcast, is that however I can help you do that, whether that's writing something, reaching out to a state representative, feeling more confident, going somewhere safely, taking an avenue that maybe you haven't, or hearing a perspective maybe you haven't, or even putting you in touch with someone who might be working in an organization that can give you more information straight from the source. I encourage that. If you guys have a problem with police, try doing a ride along. If you have a problem with your neighbor, try talking to them. And this is, of course, something it's important, and it starts with every single little thing that you do. Anthony Darst out of Minneapolis, are you doing any success spells today? You know what? It's actually a waning moon. We're coming out of a full moon in Scorpio. So everything right now is waning. So this is me finishing spells, finishing readings, finishing things, not necessarily starting them so much as we are getting rid of negative energy as the moon dissipates and the energy kind of goes down. There's a lot of crying. There's a lot of catharsis. There's a lot of sending out thank yous. There's so much about being able to conserve energy rather than conjuring it. The conjuring and the creation hopefully has already been done and put out there, and these projects are already in the works. Mary in the chat room mentioning China dealing with some of the sick people where COVID is starting to spread. Yeah, they just board up the buildings, and if you're a vulnerable adult, they leave you in there to die. Actually, there are genocides happening in a lot of Asian countries, not just China, but there are just absolute indigenous cultures, and even like just, I don't even know how much I can talk about before it is going to shut me down. But yeah, it's quite concerning. It's quite concerning. And right now when people go like, how did the Holocaust happen? Right now, guys, it's happening right now. And so if there's ways that we can help and things that we can do, I'm going to be posting links below on certain ways. The biggest is just to really share information, share correct information, share a platform that's safe for people to speak. And that I encourage, if someone thinks or says something differently than you, don't be mean, be kind, be helpful, be encouraging. You know, today I had a verbal altercation with a social worker, and I looked at her and said, listen, you and I don't know each other, but here we are working on something, and what it is you do is going to directly affect me. And that means that we are very important to each other. And so I love you and I care about you. And my name is Sarah, and let me know how I can help you. And I hope that you're here to help me because that's part of your job. And let's do this. Let me know how I can help. And because I'm here and I'm going to do it. And that's just it. Anybody you walk past today, anybody that you look over and they're in the car next to you, anybody in the drive-through before or after, anybody that you go out and have to deal with, they are your neighbor. They are a reflection of you in this universe. For a brief moment, we're here sharing this space, and we matter to each other, regardless of what flag you fly, regardless of who you kiss at night, regardless of what you're doing in the privacy of your own home. That is your business until it infringes upon my business. And that's how I live my life. And I am absolutely going to help and encourage you to try and do that, to just be kind, and I'll help you if I can. But as far as spell works, that's one of those things. The changing of the moon cycle again will be next month. It's every 28 days. If your wife, woman, girlfriend is of menstruating space and not under a birth control, then you can actually watch the cycle happen. And as it wanes or waxes, right now, you're going to see a lot of getting rid of. There's going to be a lot of purging, donating, garage sales. People, you go and you say, is there anything you're getting rid of? Anything I can have? Anything I can take out for you? Anything you're getting rid of? You want to take out the trash, open the windows, taking a deep breath, and just dropping your shoulders, letting your tongue drop, loosen your jaw, take rest when you get it, and put a smile on your face. Enjoy the spring. Things are coming alive. And so that allowing room for growth is what we need to do. You can't fill up your cup anymore if it is full. So it is the natural space to just let things go. And I can appreciate that. If there's anything you guys are letting go or you need to let go of, or you have questions or catharsis, or you need help in some way, don't hesitate to let me know. You can always send me a message. And if you have questions about anything, whether it be my books or the podcast or how to reach out to me for an interview or where to see me on my next workshop or anything like that, let me know. I am also still taking Gypsy Tribe members for May. So may the force be with you, and check all that stuff out at paranormalsarah.com. I'm going to go and start some laundry, open the windows, start doing my chores for the day. And for any of you waiting for a reading, I know one of you in the chat room is, it'll be on the way to you today. So don't worry, it's on the way. And I will talk with you guys soon. You won't see me here tomorrow because it'll be Friday. But if you sign up for notifications and subscribe to all social media stuff, you will see me. You will see me online. You'll see me giving out free readings. I'm doing a rock giveaway, doing all sorts of fun collaborations. I do hope to see you there. So catch me online at paranormalsarah.com. And until then, guys, I'll see you here next Monday, noon, StreamYard, live for No Man's Land, where we talk politics and the grave truth here from Minnesota, America, the world, the planet Earth. And I do hope I'll see you here on Monday, guys. Until then, have a great weekend. Bye-bye.